Hello, and welcome to another edition of Ask the Professor, where we answer your questions about political culture, about history, about current events, about economics, all those things that matter to us in our attempt to build a good society.
All right, and Carla wants to know, which woman in Canadian history is most, in your opinion, worthy of appearing on our currency?
Most worthy. That is a difficult call because there are so many women who deserve to be represented. And I want to say right away that I am not going to draw from the narrow list of candidates that political correctness tends to dictate to us. That is to say, they don't have to be left-wing reformers, and they don't have to have lived in Canada since Confederation. There's nothing wrong with the people who did that, but our history goes back a lot further than that. Our role models go back a lot further than that. One person that I would certainly advocate putting on the currency is Queen Victoria. A remarkable woman who put her stamp on an era. You know, people say women had no rights in Victorian times. The most powerful woman in the world was the Queen of England, the Empress of India, and many other titles besides. And she wasn't so much politically powerful as she was morally powerful. Other people that I think we could certainly consider would be Florence Nightingale. Shows the power of the engaged individual to make the politicians do what needs to be done by sheer annoying persistence in being right. Laura Secord is another Canadian hero. Also, I would take, because we don't want to just concentrate on the famous, the people with the marble statues, important as they are. How about the pioneer woman? Not so much anonymous as representative of an extraordinary number of courageous, determined people who settled this country, who braved appalling dangers from weather to wild animals to starvation to make Canada the place that it is today.
How about the teacher in the one-room school that they had all over the country where there were people back in the day?
Absolutely, the teacher in the one-room schoolroom. You think she didn't stop bullying? The kind of things we worry about today? She knew how to manage the kids, to not just to teach them mathematics and reading and writing, but also to make them better people. We definitely want to include her. We want to include our version of Rosie the Riveter, the women who did war work, so to free up men to go and fight. There are all kinds of people that we ought to honor. And I would go back further in history also. There's one that's just on my mind because we're of the UK trip and our filming on fixing the Constitution and the right to bear arms. Boadicea, as the Romans called her, Boudica was her Celtic name.
You're going far back in time now.
Raised a revolt against the Romans that was in large measure driven by resistance to unjust taxation and an attempt to disarm her people. And it's remarkable. It didn't end up going all that well, certainly not for her. The revolt failed and she died. It's not quite clear how. But there's a statue of her in London now. And there's a statue of her in London because years later, the British, who also honor many of the Romans, which is extraordinary too. Not a lot of nations put up statues to their conquerors. But they remember that this was part of that passion for liberty and self-government that has existed in the British Isles from time immemorial. And that too is part of our heritage. So I think that we could take all these people and honor them. I mean, there's only so much money, and I look in my pocket and realize there's not always that much of it. But we can honor all these people with special issues of coins and bills and so on. And remember that the great and memorable, but also the humble and determined, are those who have made this country as great as it is today.
I like Queen Victoria because she was the ultimate working mother. How many kids did she have?
She certainly was that. I don't know. Her grandchildren. Unfortunately, but you can't control your family, right? Her grandchildren included the Tsar of Russia and the Kaiser of Germany. What can you do?
Yeah, I know.
Family dinners got a little tense. But yeah, she was an extraordinary woman. Once somebody tried to assassinate her and failed and escaped, she took her carriage down the same route the next day with people waiting to nab him, and they got him.
The Queen Mother was a bit like that too.
Yes, there's another remarkable figure, and with her. During the Second World War, there was a question, would the current queen and her sister be evacuated? And her answer was that the children would never leave without her, and she would never leave the king, and the king would never leave England. And that, yes, I get choked up when I talk about this stuff. This extraordinary, ordinary courage that inspired a nation. Another one, the Queen Mother, when a bomb hit Buckingham Palace. And she said she was almost glad because now she could look the East End in the face. These are the people who have inspired us and made us great. And it would be petty to say, oh, but she lived in England. Yes, but she was the Queen of Canada and a magnificent monarch.
And wasn't she the one also they learned to shoot handguns?
Yes, they learned to shoot to join the resistance in case the Germans invaded.
That's right.
And in old age, she was known for mixing a knee-buckling martini. She never lost her zest for life.
I know. So she would be a good one, too.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for that. Thanks, Carla, for great questions. Sorry you got the professor a bit choked up, but it happens. Now, if you want to ask your question of the professor, the URL on your screen will take you to a page where everything is explained. Thanks, and see you next time.